each different bubble of reality is true.
A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma.
Nudge, nudge.
It's the Holy Grail.
Improvise. Mysterious.
It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality.
Right.
So
okay, thank you. I remember all that now.
Yeah, a lot of your karma relates around as a divinity birther being, as how you were captured into the reincarnation system and forced to give birth to very powerful Anunnaki souls whose only mission was to destroy all life on Earth so that they could literally disentangle from the soul matrix that their ancestors had gotten them involved with.
Okay, can you say that one more time? I don't think I got that.
You would give birth to beings whose sole purpose here on Earth was to eliminate human life on Earth so that there would no longer be a soul incarnating matrix on Earth, a natural human, that it would be only Anunnaki. Because they needed to disconnect from the Earth soul family. It was the Earth soul family status that pulled them into timeline genocide.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's such like a flip of the mirror of everything that I thought up till now, so that's so good to hear.
Well, again, there's 5 simultaneous stories going here. That's what's hard for so many people to realize, that the Anunnaki have been the good guys in one story, were the bad guys in another story, were the good guys and the bad guys in another story, and were the triple backstabbing agents in another one. So how can you really trust any of these beings, because we've all had all of these timelines? That's why this unity expression, that's why this understanding of the dream world we originally created is the end corridor, and this is what all these beings have been battling for, is that end corridor where separation of densities is final, where sovereign free will is final, where there's no longer the universal laws are no longer mutable in our paradox that we created as a being in unity species. We a unified paradox. It had never been done in any of the other universes before, and that was the only way to resolve this great karma as a species that we created. And you're an intense part of that. Your soul family has got a tremendous amount of let me describe it, called Jafor Yachtie. It's the only way I can do it in the light language. Let's call them Jaforans. And they're ocean-based species. They have very small amounts of dry land. They have like atolls all over their land, but they have swamps, incredible swamps, like something the size of Texas would be just a massive atoll swamp. So there is freshwater life, and then there is land life also. But the vast majority of sentient life is in a form of amphibious fish. Fish that have legs but also have tails, and they're highly telepathic species, and about 59 million years ago, another fish species that was highly technological, that had space travel, interdimensional travel, came to their world and discovered that they could easily breed with these people, and they shared a spiritual technology that they had, and they discovered that the Jaforans were highly spiritual beings also, and this spiritual technology and created tremendous soul migrations from other universes for new beings that were coming to this world as a free will. And this is where you immigrated. So 56, let me count it right, 2 epochs, 7 epochs, 15. 61 million years ago is when you immigrated from a non-free willed universe into this universe that was already non-free will, but the Jaforans already knew that we were going to go as a universe from non-free will to free will in an instant. That's the way the universe was set up. So you came into this as to be a free will being in this fish-based species, and this is where you started your divinity path, so that you could begin to birth soul family members from that other universe here in this reality. So you did that for millions of years, and then you communicated to the Saraxora, which is an aggressive offshoot species of Rokra that created the Syrians in an odd 1 degree of DNA separation. So you have Syrian karma specifically dealing with the eugenics war of 59,000 years ago. In that eugenics war, this is how your soul was attached to it. You were looking for a specific thread of Syrian DNA that which you were trying to selectively outbreed out of the species, which would have eliminated a soul family, a very, very powerful soul family, from having the ability to incarnate into the Syrian species. And it looks like it was some type of oracle DNA that like gives it an intense connection to universal source. And at that time, the Syrians, they were well known for producing oracles, and these oracles would go on tours all over the different galaxies and other times to other universes because they were their knowledge and connection to source was so powerful. And they'd oftentimes, the Syrian oracles would go on a 1,000,000-year journey. And then when they got back to Sirius, the world would be totally different. But it didn't matter to them because they'd have tens of thousands of other Syrians that would go on these pilgrimages all over the universe with them. And this prevented this particular DNA sequence that was trying to prevent any new oracles coming into the Syrian DNA. And you were part of that war to stop that from being eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, did you have any other more questions?
Gosh, I was having a little hard time hearing the last bit of what you just said, so I wasn't sure what word you used. You said something about elimination of the Syrians.
Right, the Syrians. How do I put this? The actual Syrians were they had oracles. Did you hear that part?
Yeah, I got it. I got it really right down to the last sentence. Was the only
okay.
thing
So
I didn't cut out for some reason.
You were a part of the organization that was trying to prevent these DNA surgeons from removing oracle DNA from the entire Syrian species.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Got it. Okay.
$267 is it's your name and where you're calling from?
Yes. My name's Stephanie.
You're the fiance of the other guy?
Yes. And I'm calling from Levittown, Pennsylvania.
Hi, how you doing today?
Good. I'm already feeling anxious a little bit. I haven't really listened to you. I've heard a ton about you from my fiance. And I've always, my whole life, been open to all of this stuff, as was my mom. So I grew up with all of this stuff, whereas he grew up in a very different type of household where, he didn't believe in all of this stuff, the same way. So I just was calling to see, because I have a lot of problems health-wise, and just, I've always felt like I've had one foot in this reality and another foot in another. And I'm just trying to find out what exactly my purpose is and what I can do to try to ground myself and balance myself some more and heal myself physically so that mentally I can be sound.
Okay. What I need you to do is tell me about the first 10 minutes of your day. Be as specific as possible when you first woke up. And what I'm doing is tuning into the infinite dream world you, that going through the process of being the finite. We'll do that out loud for about 45, 50 seconds, and I'll tune into you.
Okay. Well, I woke up, I set my alarm, but then I fell back asleep. I finally woke up, and I definitely was dreaming. I have dreams every night. I remember them when I first wake up, but I always remember that they're strange. Then I got up, I went to the bathroom, I brushed my teeth.
All right, I've tuned into you. I've tuned into you.
Okay.
The energies that are coming through you, a lot of times when I read people, the soul gives me an indication of how they want it to go, and I translate into linguistics that you absorb into your energy field, and I adjust these linguistics and vibrations that are behind it. And right away, I see two separate patterns in you. And this is not multiple personalities. This is literally two separate energetic patterns. One that's coexisting in the dream world and one that's here right now. So there's a piece of part of you that's in the dream world experiencing you through your awake eyes as a dreaming self. This means that you are hyper-linked to your dreams. And so hyperlinked to your dreams that you are that you have to be around places of power, like the ancient sites, the earth chakras. Being in a city is very detrimental to your long-term health. It doesn't mean you need to live in the sticks or the boondocks. You just need to live around places that are high energy and not high social hierarchy stuff. You need to be in those true wonderful places, Mammoth Park. Filled with nature, but still as a community of people. You're such a intense dreaming person that for me to tune into this isn't really an Akashic record. This is me going right to this Dreamtime person that is you and functioning in the dream world of the North Pole at the same time. And it's not that you're blocking the Akashic record. I can, but this is specific for you. The type of dreamer you are is known as the ancient grandmother. You've been in this world over and over and over and over again. And your goal every lifetime is to be the head grandmother of every ancestral lineage so you can become an oracle to those that are in the lineage, that are in the alive clan. So all those children that you can have, or all those children you can love that are not biologically linked to you, are all linked to you because you're this oversoul on the dream that's there to help those young kids get answers.
Okay.
Are you a public speaker?
No, I'm not a public speaker, but I've always, I am one of those people where I can talk to anybody and relate to anybody, and I feel great empathy for every person. And I've always been the type of person where if a friend or anybody had a problem, they would come to me and talk with me and talk it through and felt very safe with me. And
they know you're very intuitive, and you know you're very intuitive too. Well,
I do. It's almost.
The key here is for you to understand that the awake you has to become more aware of the dreaming you that's inside you right now, waiting for you to acknowledge that you are you.
Right. Well,
and I know
started
that's
writing
really
down
mind twisty, but you literally need to do it inside your head, quite literally. And you'll need to create an exploration of that. Do you do yoga?
I do yoga, and then I injured my wrist. I sprained my wrist, and I haven't been able to do yoga. Well, I can still do the tree pose, and I can still do certain things, but I can't do my whole routine that I used to do, so I kind of just stopped doing it, which isn't good that I stopped doing it because that's really when I feel most centered.
Okay.
But, and I also try to meditate.
You won't need to use your wrist. Really what you just need to do is do a stretch that doesn't hurt your wrist anymore. Legs, elbows, back, thighs, quads, ankles, everything that muscle that you can just stretch. And then you go into a meditation. And the whole purpose of it is to reconnect to your sacred feminine because that's what's giving you this dreaming body. Men are not born with that extra piece of DNA that allows you to have what's called the womb chakra or the womb cave. And that's where the axis of this grandmother energy is coming in. It's saying when you choose to accept you and you and you in the dream world are all the same being coexisting over each other, you'll be connected to that oracle energy that's going to answer the questions for children. The most innocent questions are also the most powerful questions too. And there are children out there with a vast array of intelligence and need people out there that are like me that can answer their questions instantaneous. And you are one of those people that can get instantaneous question answering because of the life path that you led in your previous past lives. As I said before, your goal was always to be the head grandmother of each soul family you've lived in. You've lived in a lot of soul families. And in today's day and age, it's very rare for you to actually be born in a single family with all your complete pieces of soul family circuitry. You complete soul circuitry on a broad scale to a big number of soul societies that stopped interacting with other soul societies because of massive karma between them due to wars here on Earth. And you can come in between these two separate groups and bring your DNA wisdom code and allow those two groups to come together, not in polarity but in neutrality, to experience a space being held in the dreams that allows people to resolve all karma while still on this planet and still part of the matrix. It's the next part of the karmic ascension machine. And you, just by learning how to meditate and hold space, allows that function to take place. The more firm you become in your own psychic understanding, the more powerful you'll be in dream world. And the more yourself will fill you in on the big picture of what you're doing inside this space.
Why do I get so anxious? Like, as a child, I've always seen stuff. My mom has always been, she's helped me with this gift I've had. I've numerous people that have died. I know they were going to die before they did. My loved ones that have passed over, they visit me in my dreams to say hi. My grandmother, I was 13. She lived in my house and she was dying, and I was out somewhere, and I said, my grandma just died, and I got home and I found her. But it's like my body is having some type of reaction where I get this horrible anxiety when I'm really tuning into that stuff. Why is that?
That's because there's so much interference in between us who we're thinking about. Cell phones, wireless internet, wireless broadcasting over wide area networks, the satellite systems, the etheric grids, all of that is designed to limit people using telepathic or telecommunications, psychic telecommunications in some way, shape, or form. And when you become,
Andrew.
You're at this point where you got to stop filtering through the distance. All of this interference is literally the anxiety that's affecting you. How attached to yourself are you?
I'm not that attached to myself, and really I just play games on it. I am very attached to the television.
Okay, I got a question. When you just play games on it, how many hours a week do you play games on your cell phone?
Probably an hour a day. Okay. It was more before, but after I hurt my wrist, it was Words with Friends. I was like, I can't really play it. But I'm not much of a tech person.
I'm asking you about the game because the cell phone games are really, really, really tricky. When you're interacting with the cell phone and playing a cell phone game, it is actually in a higher energy mode that's functioning directly through your meridians and your fingertips, which is actually a program upload place that keeps you in disruption, keeps you away from dreams, quite literally.
Oh.
All right?
Oh. Wow, yeah, I'm actually going to acupuncture today at 5, so this will be really good.
Have them work on your liver channel, as well as your kidney channel and your foot tie-in channel. You're going to have a big flush out of crap coming out of you too. When's the last time you took a fast?
It's been a while. I've been very backed up.
Well, this is something you're going to have to make a choice. If you have the money, go do a colonic or home enema. If you do the colonic, you only need to do it once, and then you can go ahead and do a fast a couple days afterwards. Your goal is you want to get out the actual mucus layer that's on your intestinal tract, and that's the tremendous storage of negative psychic data. For you, clearing that out of your system will be a tremendous opening, as well as allowing you to literally connect to your sacred feminine through the stretching and meditation that brings energy direct into your sacred feminine. You already have a womb chakra that's been activated. You've already been activated a few times. That's why you're awake. But the next level here is knowing that they're literally going to raise your power level from 9 volts to 50 volts. And you have to have skills ready to cope with the fact that you're going to be functioning on a much higher level. That's learning how to clear yourself out. Yeah, you don't want to go onto that whole new level with all that stuff left in your gut.
No, I don't. And it's so funny that you said that because I was going really well. And then this past month, I've been just very blocked, and I can feel it. I feel strained. I feel just down. It makes me feel depressed. It really affects me. And I usually do when I have some type of emotional thing going on. I know it affects that.
And that too is negative contracts coming through you, the emotional things that's keeping you in a processing state that's not effective. And since you don't have your full amount of sacred feminine energies, you can't process sacred feminine concepts. And that's where so many women get caught up in the menstrual cycle and the craziness, or after the menstrual cycle, they just caught up in the drama, or they create drama around them. You know what I'm talking about. The women that are out there that just create drama. They have nothing. And that's their sacred feminine energy.
Yeah, and it's not really.
It's because your sacred feminine energy is misunderstood. You don't have the energies to truly understand that volume of pureness. And that's what you got to get into is clearing out the body, doing the proper exercises, and then getting in contact with your dreams. You're a tremendous dreaming soul, and you should have been picked up by age 5 by one of the big groups of spiritual explorers out there and should have been trained. You would have been doing beyond what I could do. You have been God.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's been since I was young. I just have one more question. I have fibromyalgia, and I might possibly have lupus, and just have a lot of health problems. Does that all coincide with me not being fully aware of what my abilities are, or is that from karma from another life, or?
Vast majority of it is from the fact that as a younger kid, your dreaming body had to stand up and be a warrior and kick the crap out of a bunch of dark entities for quite some time around your family. Your family had been under psychic attack for many years in a row when you were young. And that's part of the harvesting process. Part of the harvesting process. They were just a tasty morsel that people kept coming back for. They enjoyed that energy that they were creating in disharmony. And the negative spiritual contracts you have, particularly your fine print, it had to be adjusted so that you wouldn't stay a dreaming warrior, that you would be able to go on to the dream seeing and then into the grandmother concept, so you understood that the oracle type information that you're connecting to is for sacred feminine women. It's not for men. But when kids are young, they aren't truly boys or girls until they gain their personality. So many of the people that you'll function around the most are those young kids, and having them around you in a business type or in a thing where you get to go and interact with them, that will amplify your skill tenfold.
That's so funny that you say that, because what I want to do is my niece is mentally challenged, and I really want to go to school or do some type of program to work with children who have disabilities. And because I feel like I have this connection with her. She's not autistic, but she's had her brain shunted multiple times, and she can't really speak regularly. But just looking at her, I feel like I have this connection with her, and it's really, and my son, who's my whole entire world, who I love to pieces, I feel just so close with them, and it makes me happy. It really brings joy to my life. So that's something that I've been saying for a while that I want to do, that now I just have to do instead of say.
Yep. Also, you're connected to them in your dream world. When you put down the Dreamtime Warrior Sword, you picked up the Dreamtime Healers. And these are, I'll simply call it a soul society called the Dreamers of the Southern Skies. And that's who you've been functioning with, and that's something that you should write down, Dreamers of the Southern Skies. And before you go to bed each night or a couple times during the day, send out an expression to the Dreamers of the Southern Skies that you want to dream with them.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you so much. Is there anything I can look up so I can get more in tune with this dream grandmother? Is there any?
They'll come in dreams. Find a video that has the Aurora Borealis of the North Pole. Find a really impressive video and watch it quite a few times so that you can get that imagery in your head and maintain that imagery when you're doing any kind of yoga work that still protects your hand. So if you can maintain that inside your imagery while you're doing yoga and incorporate it into meditation and then allow yourself to fall asleep, you will amplify your dream experience manyfold.
Okay, thank you so much. This has been so helpful and so eye-opening, and it's great to have a name to it, but I've always known that I've had something really special with this, and it's just great to get that information and know that that's the direction I need to go in. So this is so great that you're doing this for people. I'm just so glad that people like my fiance, who before would have never been into this, are so open to this now, which is just amazing.
It is. It's absolutely amazing. All right, I've got to move on to the next caller, so have a good day.
Thank you. Yeah, sure. Thank you so much.
Agnieszka, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Oh, so nice to hear you.
Today? Nice to hear you too.
Good.
How you doing?
Yeah, we have the first snow this year.
First snow. How much snow did you get?
Well, like 1 centimeter, like that.
Oh, nothing. Where are you calling from today?
Warsaw, it is.
In Poland. Very, very good.
Poland.
Yep. So how did you find out about me?
Yeah, I remember it was last year. I was listening to podcasts, and it must have been a 5D show or something where Dolores Cannon was also one of the guests. Mm-hmm. And then I listened through all this Galactic history on YouTube.
Oh, so you're back there from the old days with Chris and that.
I think so.
So you know how this works. You have the Akashic record of this world and 20,000 other worlds open to you. What questions do you have?
I would stay close to Earth and my life here, and I had through all my life I had some health issue the unclear symptoms, but one thing I get cured, another jumps in, and that is the real thing going on in my life. I cannot figure it out. I tried a lot of things.
Okay, what's going on with your lungs and your stomach?
I think they more or less fine. I have spinal problems with lower back.
Well, all of that stems around your lungs and your stomach. All of your spinal problems is all around your lungs and your stomach.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do to your back?
It's a long story. I had scoliosis since my youth, and then I actually had a couple of very difficult years, and I didn't move much, but I traveled a lot. I think that's all had an effect, and maybe an infection also.
Well, most scenarios, early onset scoliosis is from entity possession.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and when I see lung damage and stomach damage like this is representative of an entity that actually took control of you at about age 4 to age 11. And it looks like it would take control of you during the holiday seasons, actually. This was an ancestral entity doling out karma. It didn't matter about your sovereign free will. And it actually temporarily brought a walk-in soul, which has damaged your stomach meridian. And your stomach meridian is now wrapped around your left part of your pelvis here. I'm trying to reconnect it here and reconnect it right into the root chakra. something just came in and screwed up all of your energy meridians here. And when you started traveling, where did you travel to?
You know, I traveled all my childhood. We moved houses and schools, and it just and my family is musicians, so. And then I started my own work, and it also comes with a lot of traveling. But definitely it would be my choice if I was making choices, if someone asked me.
All right, well, I'm clearing out a lot of energy that's in your pelvis right now. There's a couple dinks to your sternum here, too. So what other kind of questions do you have?
You know, I have problems with remembering my dreams, and I feel, for a long time I'm trying to, and sometimes it happens spontaneously to do lucid dreaming, but when you don't remember your dreams, it's quite a problem to do that. And I did you know, a lot of entheogens and ayahuasca and stuff, and no problems there. But I just don't remember my dreams very well.
That's because your stomach meridian has been disconnected from your sacrum, so that your dreaming body actually can't properly leave and enter exit your body. Like, think of a car inside a garage and somebody starting it up and bashing through the garage door to leave instead of raising the garage door. And then when it wants to come home, it has to crash through the front of the garage door.
Mm-hmm.
That is literally what your dreaming body has got to do each time. There has been this barrier that's been set up over your sacrum, so that literally you aren't going to remember your dreams. And I know why. It's because what you're doing in your dreaming world. And the more that you become aware of your dreaming world, the more this world's going to be less real to you. Your original species is called Navaran. They're an aviary species. One of the reasons you kept moving and moving and moving and moving was to not be detected by the system of domination and control. You have this light body programming that's in you that allowed moving and moving and moving to be functional for you. As I said before, there was an entity that came in and was quite possessive of you at a young age. That was that Navaran species. You've had multiple UFO abductions at that early age where they were harvesting DNA off of you. And this is the root of why you're disconnected from your dream world. The type of DNA lineage and the type of light-bodied lineage that you are in right now is what's called an oracle lineage. It has been fought over, the lineage that you're in, hundreds and thousands of times. You know, who are your mother and father before them? Do you know anything about them?
My grandparents, yes, I knew them all. I lived with them actually during my childhood quite a lot.
Okay. Do you know your ancient family history at all?
No, you know, in Poland we are quite disconnected from the records.
Yeah, I know. I see. When I saw you as an opportunity to be read, it's. I think I've only done it 2 or 3 times where I've talked about the Oracle DNA ship here on a live show. You are a unique being. Inside your DNA right now is the ability to be somebody like who would be an oracle at like the Oracle of Delphi, but take away the myth of any type of abuse where those beings would be in the highest reverence. You would very much fit into that expression. Ayahuasca, all that other stuff works for you because you're already in the other world. In this world here, right, this being here, you, has light body programming that stops it from being able to perceive the other world. Now, the contract revocations are designed for a human being with a light body inside it to read it out loud so that the light body can begin deprogramming itself by the use of contract revocations. How did the contract revocations work for you?
Well, I read it to myself probably twice, and I think it's really important to say this consciously. But I think I revoke the contracts throughout all my life. Like that. I refuse.
Mm-hmm. See, in your scenario, your light body has so much programming to prevent access to the other realm of the real that you've been desensitized to what the realm of the real is even presenting to you. That's how much your dreaming body has been shut off. And what I'm going to endeavor to do here is to get you to reconnect in this presence right here, so that your light body can figure out how to trickle something into your dreaming body so you can begin to have dreaming experiences again. And it's going to be like, taking a hammer and chisel at the dam and tink, tink here, tink, tink there, until you can create some kind of crack that the expression behind can come through. So I'm going to read something, and I want you just to read after me. Repeat after me. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My future self is now.
My future self is now.
I break the bonds that hold me in non-presence.
I break the bonds which hold me in non-presence.
So this I am presence can make unlimited statements.
So this I am presence can make unlimited statements.
In no time.
In no time.
I am a being of light.
I am a being of light.
Not held back by the constraints.
Not held back by the constraints.
Of the system that defines humanity.
Of the system which defines humanity.
I am a being of mass incarnation.
I am a being of mass incarnation.
Not single incarnation without awareness.
Not single incarnation without awareness.
Of all other versions of myself.
Of all the versions of myself.
I am a being of awareness, not unawareness.
I am a being of awareness, not unawareness.
I am a multidimensional being.
I am a multidimensional being.
By 0-point function.
By 0-point function.
Is to create and co-create love in all its form.
Is to create and co-create love in all its forms.
With my bonded planetary mind.
With my bonded planetary mind.
Conjoined with a shared reality.
Conjoined with the shared reality.
Of all fully sovereign beings.
Of all fully sovereign beings.
I am not a being.
I am not a being.
Who allows only two choices of light and dark polarity.
Who allows only two choices of light and dark polarity.
I am not a being who gives away my sovereign authority.
I am not a being who gives away my sovereign authority.
With tacit consent.
With tacit consent.
I am a being who lives, loves, and learns.
I am a being who lives, loves, and learns.
I am not a being who follows overgrown mind trails.
I am not a being who follows overgrown mind ways.
Trails. In the shadows of former selves.
In the shadows of former selves.
I break all contracts, vows, and agreements.
I break all contracts, vows, and agreements.
That keep me within the hierarchical order of the external self.
Which keep me in hierarchical order of external self.
I am an internal being of infinite potential.
I am could you repeat?
I am an internal being.
I am an internal being.
Of infinite potential.
Of infinite potential.
I am a master of my own reality.
I am a master of my own reality.
All past selves.
All past selves.
Still in justice and judgment.
Still in justice and judgment.
Shame, blame, and guilt.
shame, blame, and guilt
are hereby removed from my blue body nature.
are here by could you repeat?
Hereby removed from my blue body nature.
Hereby removed by my blue-bodied nature.
I break all contracts, vows, and agreements
I break all contracts, vows, and agreements
I may have had with any other universal source.
I may have
I may have had with any other universal source
with any other universal source
in existence or non-existence.
in existence and non-existence.
I make this statement.
I make this statement.
I am done reverse engineering the hierarchical order.
I am done reverse engineer hierarchical order.
I am internal source,
I am internal source,
connected to all beings,
connected to all beings,
with the nature of love.
with the nature of love.
Let all beings in existence know
Let all beings in existence know
I have reclaimed my sovereign authority.
I have reclaimed my sovereign authority.
And so be it.
And so be it.
Wow, that's powerful.
Hmm.
How do you feel?
Yeah, I overwhelmed in a way.
What I was doing in that is making sure that your light body heard words of extreme neutrality in its extreme polarity that it's dealing with. What I would call this is like, you've ever seen a shark's eye? It has an extra eyelid that can cover it before it attacks. And our chakras have this same concept in a metaphor of a psychic eyelid that covers it for protection. And your sacrum is having its psychic eyelid closed all the time, and it's making it extremely difficult for your dreaming body to function because it was under detection so frequently during your life. Detection means you haven't been caught. It means you're being detected, and they're scanning you in timelines, dimensions, galaxies, and universes. And all those times that you were moving and you may have not liked it, it was because literally your soul was scared that you were going to get caught by the system and put into the system. You would have ended up the worst of the worst this lifetime. As I said earlier, you have Oracle DNA in you. What I do, is nothing compared to what is in the potential of your DNA. You have to begin to realize you've earned the right to be in that DNA skin suit. No one forced you into that skin suit. That's an impossible skin suit to be forced into because its prerequisites are very specific. You just came in with the light body programming, so you can't see what the skin suit controls are telling you. That you have the ability to remote view. You have the ability of telepathy. You have the ability to read the Akashic Records. And the only thing that's stopping you right now is the belief system that you came in with. Out loud words are going to be the way you conquer light body programming. Internal heart song and happiness are how you're going to beat light body programming, so that once again your dream world is as fully connected to you as in any of those other experiences that you've had. All right, so what other kind of questions do you have?
How to work with that then. How to work with my body. I'm not comfortable in my body.
I know you're not, but how much willing are you willing to have an experience? This isn't just like going to get an experience with ayahuasca or any of that. You got to create it on your own. Are you ready to create it on your own? because it takes heart space work to do it. It doesn't take a lot of physical space. It takes heart space work to create sacred space so that you can dream, so that that protective eyelid lifts up when you're going to sleep instead of stays closed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to imagine one of your young selves when you were moving. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to begin to create a meditation that identifies, the big moves in your life. And I want you to use your imagery of your own mind to greet that person who is moving and say, I am your future self, here to remind you there's a great love and life ahead of you. And to remind those other versions of yourself to stay connected to the future, to the ancient future. In the now, we have the ability to deprogram our entire existence if we look at the chessboard that has been given to us. This I Am Presence right now has access to all of the memories this lifetime. Therefore, they can re-energize their whole lifetime differently without changing the past, just by changing the perception of the past.
I got this.
Okay? So now for you, can you create ceremony in your own home?
I can.
Okay. Can you dedicate 5, 6, 7 days to the word hibernation and relate your ceremonial words to that word hibernation? Can you conquer the self that doesn't allow you to sleep and dream and regenesis? This is the challenge. Protect that bed. Do the silver, salt, and sage on the back of your neck and on your tailbone every night before you go to sleep. Make sure during the day that you have sunlight on your head, on your face, so that when you go to sleep, you can recreate the feeling and imagery of the sun on your face and fall asleep to that energy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Each night before you go to sleep, make a prayer that says you want to have a soul family reunion in your soul family home with all beings in attendance in their true residual image. Ask for the light of truth to come in and for the darkness of unawareness to be brought into the light of truth. You ever had visions?
Yeah. Always.
Tell me about one.
I can see patterns. I can see, it's a very abstract. I can see how the things relate to each other, like through people or through events or through meanings. It's sort of too abstract to describe.
Just put together their puzzle.
Yeah.
That's why I said that's your oracle DNA going through. Your DNA is filtering information for you, and it's not your light body that's filtering the information for you. Think of it was like when you first started using a computer. You had to learn the techniques and all that, and then as they changed operating systems around, you had to learn it again and again and again. You're at a state where your DNA is a computer, and all you got to do is learn how to use the keyboard and the mouse and understand what the little windows and terminals mean, and you'll be able to turn skill sets on and off. You'll be able to tune up the ability of synchronicities that come into your life, great abundance to flow as if it were water. When you choose to enter that frequency of true neutrality in the self of the source of the self, and shed off the remaining light body program that doesn't allow you to see the computer that's in front of your fingertips. Your body's the computer. Your dreaming body is the user of the computer. Okay. What other kind of questions do you have?
I wanted to ask you for some really practical advices how to get access to information, like here, or maybe you can tell me something about the place I am from, Poland. We really do. Our history is quite unknown to us. Our real history.
Well, practical information right now for you is telling your story by the fire. Have you heard me talk about that?
I know what you mean.
All of that applies. All of that applies to you because it's triggering you to create sacred space for 2 weeks. And that's exactly what your soul is dying for you to create sacred space for 2 weeks. It's not about a vacation or a holiday. It's literally about you creating the space for you to be you in the space and to let down in the space and go through all of the purging of the energies that isn't yours. So your true signature frequency comes through in hibernation and regenesis. That is where your physical body and your spiritual body comes to terms with what's going on in the physical body and how to use the different skill sets. You'll learn it all in the dreaming world, how the user uses the keyboards. But creating that space, that means you have to interact with the body long enough so that when the body goes to sleep, you're in manifestation mode. And that's where you take control of your physical aura and you can begin rewiring some of the scenarios that prevent you from even dreaming.
For how long you would think I should do that?
2 weeks. I would do a colon cleanse with it at the same time. It's not that you're desperately in need of one, but it would really, really make it a lot easier on you.
But do you think like to stay separated or like
whatever is easier for you to create that space. If it means going away, then go away. If you have a house that's quiet and nobody will bother you for 2 weeks, then stay home.
Mm-hmm.
About really what it takes for you to create that space where you can let down in and not worry about the phone ringing, not worrying about people stopping, you being you and you alone in hibernation where you can sleep as much as you want to sleep. Or that when you're doing that ceremonial time, you're burning off the dense energies. You're going through that process of remembering who you are, what you've done in your life, acknowledging those great and wonderful victories that are out there, and allowing yourself to earn the right to see what the other world is doing. You've earned the right by being in that DNA skin suit. I can't reiterate that enough. I mean, that's extremely, extremely rare to be who you are in that skin suit right now. It is like the diamond in the rough.
Hello? Are you still there?
I'm still here. I'm just clearing some more energy out of you. There are times that when I make statements, it's not always directly at you. Sometimes it's at other versions of yourself who don't have the best intentions in mind for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think it's important to understand that you've been remote viewed by your own self.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's time that you started writing messages to any of your future selves that want to come and visit you, that they can't do it unless they go through a spiritual court of equity.
Mm-hmm.
Very important. Wow, here we go. Here we go. Sorry, just had to go and kick out one of your other versions of self who was rather angry that I was deprogramming it. You have an intense connection to Mesopotamia, particularly the upper Iraq Indus Valley area. Yeah, a lot of lifetimes there. Probably at least 30% of all your lifetimes on the Earth are right there.
Mm-hmm.
So what other kind of questions do you have?
If you could say something about Poland or this part of Europe, like our history, anything which you think is important.
Europe in general is the legacy inheritors of the fall of Atlantis, also the fall of Lemuria. We have to realize the world looked very different then. The oceans were much lower. The planet was much more controlled, so there wasn't tremendous amounts of ice on the ice caps like we perceive now. It was in underground lakes that were properly balancing the world. And there were underground cities and above ground cities that made up the Atlanteans and the Lemurians, two separate species operating inside and outside of time that had come to an agreement that if one Lemurian species and another Atlantean species crossed over, that they wouldn't fight each other anymore, because they realized that they were the same people all trying to reach to the same end. So they co-inhabited the planet on separate timelines and bled over every now and then. Europe itself, particularly in the Warsaw, Poland, Romania, and that area, were the inheritors of those that were operating the Earth self-defense forces. The major fortified structures, command and control structures, war structures existed all throughout Europe. They were deep underground structures and mountaineering structures that all went through many layers of orbital bombardment until they look like what they look like now. Okay, there were a group of Atlanteans that the best way to describe it came from the Irish expression, that entered tunnels and entered into Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, into China. Then you had the Lemurians who did the opposite, went through Mongolia, through Upper Russia, through the Arctic Valley, into Hollow Earth, from Hollow Earth, into the upper Mesoamerica areas, and then back into Romania, back into Warsaw, back into Crimea, Ukraine, the Black Sea. So they didn't travel on the surface. They went underground and above ground and went from one timeline to another because they were getting all of their ancestors that they had lost in timeline genocide into timeline fallout shelters. That is the next thing to understand about what Poland, what Warsaw, those particular areas. Those are where a gigantic amalgamation of timeline fallout shelters exist underground. This is where people were collecting their soul shards, because that's what they did when they're on these big tours, go and collect their soul shards because they all went through orbital bombardment and mass solar assassination of their ion presence. So they would go and reconnect these things. This is called the underworld journey, and the underworld journey ultimately takes over the surface religions and histories that arose there, the Druidic concept, the Celtic concept, all the Germanic, all of the Prussian, all of those different religious expressions that ultimately went into monotheism, amalgamated on their surface nodes resolution of ancestors. Does that make sense to you?
I don't think so.
Well,
I mean, I will have to listen to it again to get this story.
What it is particularly the region that you live in the Polish regions, there's timeline fallout shelters. Probably a good 40% of all Earth's soul shards are stored in the Crimean Mountains, Ukraine, Poland, all throughout that area. It's a massive vault of soul shards of humanity that exists there in stasis, in unawareness, locked in technology, unaware that we exist, yet still going on with their own life in 28-year repetitions. And you're an oracle, and you live in that area.
Yes, how to access this
that means you need to be spiritually clean, spiritually fit, and ready to understand that these are ancient psychic technologies created by beings in awareness, and that you can't do it alone, that you are going to need a community to fall back on. Why? Because they're the ones that are going to help you see what you can't see when you are looking farther than anyone has ever seen before. All people that are oracles need a support group, because they're looking farther than they've ever looked before. And people need to keep them grounded. Those are those that you call friends and family that remind you to go out and see the sunlight, remind you to do this and that, and remind you to be human and not fourth and fifth dimensional. Because being an oracle is a balance between physical and being fifth dimensional. Because the way your dreaming body is separated, it's very easy for you to become a fourth dimensional personality here for a very short period of time. But you need it for a longer period of time where you can function and co-create with it. And the only way to do that is by starting to use it from the perspective of the dreaming body. The body is the keyboard, and the dreaming body is the user. The user needs to be impressed into your sleeping scenarios, your waking scenarios, through ceremony. And ultimately learning to create your own contract revocation specific for you, and begin to use those every day. Why every day? You have a long way to go before you have even seen some of your ancient future selves that have been literally putting in front of you all sorts of options for abundance, and that you keep walking by the diamond in the rough. There's great abundance waiting for you there just to see it. All right, do you have any last questions?
Yeah, about, you said that starting the age 4, I have been contacted or abducted. Indeed, I started, abducted. Indeed, I remember from that time, I was really afraid of UFO through the window.
Yeah, because you were part of the DNA trade. I mean, everyone here in our world has been part of the DNA trade, whether it's harvesting from you as a baby, or if the ship's abducting you and harvesting your DNA from your solar plexus or not. It's all about where they're harvesting it from your bodies. A lot of times the DNA they're harvesting is light body DNA. And particularly for you, they were harvesting your light body DNA. They were trying to figure out how you made it into an oracle skin suit. At the same time, they couldn't remote target you. They literally had to do mass scans every time to find you. That's why you kept moving and moving and moving. Your soul had already predicted what was going on, because it was an oracle in another lifetime, and it used its ability and vision to plan a future lifetime where it could outsmart the system of domination and control, including those that weren't a part of the system, who are an off-world species trying to manipulate you at the same time. You see, you have a very well thought out soul path, and you've got to start connecting to it and believing in it, that you've planned this out, and there are gigantic gifts that are waiting for you when you begin to learn to connect to this plan. As for the UFOs, you are part of the DNA trade. Just about everyone on the world is. And when you're part of the DNA trade, oftentimes that means you have other versions of yourself living on this planet, clones. Which you do. Does that shock you?
Ah. Any chance to meet them?
Does that shock you?
No.
Okay. It's almost like it's natural to you.
Interesting. It's interesting.
The chances of meeting them are very positive, but only when you go internal to the self and realize there's a light body program that has even allowed that through. Because those are your teachers. And you are their teacher.
Wow, this sounds great.
Yeah. Well, this has been a really, really good call. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You have a really good day.
You too. Thank you.
Wow, that was fun. In most scenarios, I know what I'm walking into, but sometimes this I am present self can be not really ready, because you can get, how do I describe this without giving the wrong words? You're not ready for someone's fullness of their life, especially if they're going through an intense healing at that moment. Like when I was working on Gary, the guy with the throat, the amount of psychic work that I did to get that through, I normally it would be something that I do in 3, 4, or 5 hours, and I did in 20 minutes. And I put the pedal to the metal, and I burnt a tremendous amount of psychic energy to do that. And I'm glad that I was able to do that. And then in other scenarios, you got to put it in low 4-wheel drive and just tread through it, and you're towing the person through the reading the whole way. In this scenario, I was glowing tremendous bright light and constantly removing other versions of herself who didn't want her to succeed, that didn't even belong in this dimension. Shadowy realms that had nothing to do with her of this lifetime. Old shadows from other lifetimes that have no right to impress upon a person and to change their experience. In an intense communication with those other shards to stop doing that they're breaking universal law, to bring them to the spiritual court of equity. That's what goes on in the other side of the reading, beyond the hands and the voice. Sometimes you have to really lead these soul shards, carrot and stick. Some fight to the bitter end, and some you have to recycle the source. This shard couldn't come to terms until it got to its philosophical debate out. Whether it was right or wrong, it didn't matter to that shard.
What's your next question?
Okay, so I am a person that has experienced, intense mental illness requiring hospitalization, medicine, God complexes, like kind of all that jazz. And I'm wondering if these experiences are, have anything to do with resolving karma and unawareness, like if they're actually, beneficial, or if they're, psychic parasites and like the system fucking with our heads.
I'm really glad you asked that question. I'm really, really glad you asked that question. It shows how evolved your soul is, because you could ask that question. And the first answer I'm going to give you might be a little hard to take. You came into the School of Hard Knocks, and the School of Hard Knocks has not been treating you well because you have a specific Pleiadian light body, photonic light body, that made it into a different, a non-Pleiadian incarnation grid. You dressed up in camouflage. The Arcanic grid let you through. And as soon as you became a baby, you connected to other indigos and crystal Pleiadians and were able to give them a guideway around the Archon group and direct incarnate. So as long as you're alive, your soul, your dreaming body, is facilitating people to come into this world as indigos and crystals in a specific soul migration pattern. So they have been hammering you at every layer so that you shut down, go to sleep, and go into conformity.
Okay. This is a side note. It wasn't one of my questions, but I definitely feel, I live in Chicago, outside of Chicago. I definitely feel like I dream in the sacred geometry system, so I don't I still would want to continue, doing that work that I'm doing, and I guess I'm doing it already, so it's not a problem that I'm trapped in the system.
What is a problem? I mean, one man's pleasure is another man's pain. One woman's menstrual cycle is another woman's hell. I can give you my opinion, and this is a little separate of the Akashic record. You're at a point of your soul evolution that if you took a third of what you've already learned about the world and translated it to who you are in the now, whether it was spoken word, poetry, music, you would have a pretty big following pretty quick because of the soul codes that you asked, particularly the Pleiadian soul codes. That means you're linked to a Pleiadian Seven Sister group. That means within your immediate soul family is a group of very powerful souls that are called Seven Sisters, from the Seven Sisters of Pleiades, each from the North Pole of the different Pleiadian planets, who can become oracles, a living, breathing connection to the universal source, not the galactic source. And they do this through song, through meditation, through sign language, through all sorts of methods. What this means is you can temporarily be an oracle energy so that the other Pleiadian Seven Sisters can go through their awakening process, because they have been heavily hammered and suppressed as soon as they were identified in the sacred geometry system as a broken soul, broken contract soul. So that means you could have intense moments of clairvoyance, clairessence, or even doing something what I'm doing. It's about the endurance of what you can do to clear your field, after witnessing a dense subject that was a big teaching that may have something to do with war, hate, and violence, but ultimately whatever you were in communication with, whether it's the Akashic record, the Akashic soul family record, or the light body frequency was teaching you a lesson in that now moment. How do you process it? How do you let go of the density? How do you stay neutral with the information? Those are skill set stuff. And in the years that you've gone through all of your experiences of depression, regression, obsession, the different medications, you have learned an endurance game of how to stay alive and how to stay you when you're on or you're off the medicine. And that ultimately is going to be your challenge. Can you remain neutral through the flow of information and begin to build the psychic muscle that it takes to hold that data in a moment of now, to translate it to those people who are ultimately going to be doing something with it? Does this mean write a book, do songs? It means, what is it, the medium in which you want to communicate to a soul family that basically puts you as, in a chess game, as a rook, and you have now checked the king of the system, and the king is trying to do whatever it can do to get itself out of check with you. The check is, am a Pleiadian being, I'm linked to the oracles, the oracle frequency can come into my I am presence in unawareness, which means you can unravel the whole system, and you would never even know that your 25 words you said to a taxi driver changes the next set of outcomes that really could change a whole bunch of people's lives in your local community. Your 1 degree of separation is so big in your community that your chances of jumping from AAA league to, a contract in maybe your local major league or a bigger major league is there for you. Your golden bricks are there only when you see them and believe that they were given to you by your own soul. It's time for you to drink of the power of yourself and then share it with y'all.
I mean, I sense that and experience that and, feel the pressure and the responsibility that comes from that. My hesitation is that it is so easy for me to go into a God complex and, think that I am this Saint Germain, Jesus person, that I need to, make sure that is checked before I do anything that, actually puts me in a public scenario.
Well, that means that at some point in time you experienced a whole lot of power. And that what you call God complex is a label that was given to you that you allowed justifying a healing in yourself so that conformity wasn't going to be so big to you. Your soul is not a conforming soul, and when it's forced under the yoke of control, it goes through very difficult times where its soul begins rejecting the body, and it has lots of things because it's a very specific path that you're on. And when it begins to deviate and the system begins to throw nails in your road and your tires start to pop, you get this God complex that is something that was given to you, that it isn't a belief system, and it isn't yours. And then you co-created with it, for whatever reason, to justify the volume of information that was coming out. It'll be you coming to terms that I can do this as me, and I don't need a God complex, because that is someone projecting onto me. Now, if I actually have a God complex, there's something else that's in your habit pattern that is influencing your ego and your shadow to take over the information or the psychic muscle and bear some of that weight, because the I am presence may have used too much of its energy in filtering information. See, you need to be able to set up a ritual of filters that allows yourself, think of it like a series of water filters that on the different spiritual dimensions that you set up with prayer and set up with ceremony and ritual, so that when a layer of information comes to you, that you don't just go, I got it all, and poop it out and that's it. You need to allow the process of the body so to go through the frequency and vibration changes. Ceremonial life, what does that mean to you? You have to give it that structure. It need not have any religion behind it other than your own personal belief. But once it gets that structure, the entities or your other selves that are working with you have a structure to work with. And then they begin to say, all right, it's not good to come to you when you're taking your morning crap. How about after breakfast? Where you can set up the frequency like 20 minutes after breakfast on my way to work, we'll take a quick question. On my way home, or I'll stop at this park twice a month and I'll give myself 1 hour of no time, 1 hour of spirit, so that I acknowledge that and that steam valve. And as we do this more and more frequently, more and more stuff that's waiting to be processed can be processed, so the whole new layers of those streams of information can be interpreted, processed, created, co-created, procreated with, until there's a language, whether it's written word or song or whatever, art, clay, food. It is your artistic expression in what you're putting forth.
Okay, that is honestly the most helpful thing I've ever heard, because my struggle is like, how do you go from being kind of a beginner to being a spiritual person and trying to make everything spiritual? But like, what I'm taking from what you said is that if I just create like a time in a day to allow things to come in, then from there I can build and go on. So I actually feel like for the first time I have a beginning and a path and a tool. So thank you.
You're welcome.
When you're doing pattern associations, it's about what you can begin to translate out into some method or format of either a... See, the limitations of 10 words made it very, very tough. So you can't generally translate an empathic emotion into a written word always, especially something like sailboat or something like Earth or the numbers to the Super Bowl. You need something that gives you a deep spiritual synopsis or understanding synopsis so that you can translate it into something that's very limited. The subliminal messages that generally come in that scenario, they're generally your own whispers. We did a lot of clearing on the cards themselves, but there's also the thing where you had hundreds of people that were simultaneously doing it. As for actual subliminal messages, how do I describe this? How do you clear those? It's anything that's subliminal is catching you on a ring of yourself, where you're having a conversation and then there's the echo and the ring back of your own self-reflection of what you're saying. And deeply empathic people can be so on their voice of what they're saying and how it's impacting other people that it can create this echo and ring back, which creates self-programming subliminal messages, or makes their situation where subliminal messages that are just created by other scenarios because people put them out in the world in knowingness and unknowingness, you could be more susceptible to them. So creating a filter that stops that is critical. How does one do that? It's knowing how your throat chakra interacts with your third eye, because your throat and your third eye are creating voice and spirit energy and imagery at the same time. Just as people are looking at me and you've got the screen that's changing behind and all the other things that are going on here, your throat is creating an energetic pattern that your third eye is creating imagery with, that when you're remote viewing ultimately can be created into something that manifests into the required action in the remote view. Okay? There's other types of techniques that you can do that help you get to the oracle of the self, where you've gone into the level of knowingness where you trust your empathic skills, you trust your heart skills and your intuitive skills to come up with something that is the right answer. And that's the precipice of trust that we faced. And one of those things that's common tool sets that are out there are cards or ruins or I Ching. Those are all systems of knowingness that create patterns. Like if one does the I Ching and you get the set of teachings and you read it and it directly applies to your day, you're allowing that system to help you. One can create their own system that is the oracle to the self. You know, again, and it's a matter of choice of what you want to put your belief system into, because it is knowing your levels of beliefs and what your belief systems are and how you've taken teachings from other belief systems determines how the perception filters that you have help you determine if what you see is what you believe, is what is true, is what you write down. Does that help?
That's awesome.
There you go.
There's also. I tend to go by the feeling too. I mean, I picked up on the feeling.
Is it a body feeling or a heart feeling?
It's a heart feeling. It's like a knowingness. It's like I find myself, I'll doubt myself, and then I'll say, you know what? That was my initial thought.
Right.
It goes back to the old saying.
Hesitation.
You know, go with your first.
Right. So what I can help you out is when you're trying to get into the zone to go do a remote view, imagine your heart chakra having two shades of green, one really dark green and one really like a lime green. And I want that to be like 10 inches around your heart, like a big heart chakra. Just get it bigger and bigger and bigger until it reaches your throat and it reaches to just below your solar plexus. And what you're doing is you're bringing the center of your energy from their body up a whole octave degree, so more of your upper body is more with your spirit. And with that heart-paced center, that heart going up in the open energy, you'll have more of a chance to jump through that hesitation energy. Hesitation is that string that attaches to your back that stops you like dead in your tracks. And when you have more energy, you have more string to go forward, and sometimes that's all you need is just enough chances to know every time I jump in the water, I'm not gonna fall and hurt myself. You know, the water is always deep enough, or I can always jump and make it no matter how distance is, because space is no distance. You have that trust in yourself.
You know, Andrew, you just answered one of my questions that I had, because I had no idea what to expect with this, whole thing, and we were told to write some questions down, and it was to talk about the heart space because it seems so vitally important. And in going into your heart space, sometimes I'm wondering, do you go in it as if you're looking out of it?
Really, really, really cool. Yes. I have actually described that on other shows, right? I tell people to, yes. It is these two eyes have to figure out in imagery how to be down here to the left and right of the heart, the two ventricles on the two sides. Bloop, 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 bloop. And then they'll go like this. And then your third eye will be there. And you'll have two eyes and a third eye. That is the imagery that you're trying to create from here to here so that there is a link. These still work and this still works. And then after a while, literally, it'll feel like your brain sinks down and goes into your heart. Before you were a human being fully grown, you started out as a heart. And then the spine grew up and a little piece of brain grew there. And then that's where you have a piece of brain on your heart. And then the skull grew and the head grew and the brain grew. So you are returning to that 0 point in the fetus. And yes, you can have this I am presence technological vision in this I am presence technological result of now and in the past at the 0 point of the fetus. Because at the 0 point of the fetus has already experienced the void energy of the birth.
That makes perfect sense to me. I mean, I've listened to so much of your stuff, and I said, I know he's going to say I've said this before, but I never heard you say it like, that makes perfect sense to me.
Well, that's so... Very cool. All right, so the next thing is you also have a brain in your gut. That is something else people don't really realize. I say people, your dreaming body's in your gut. So the brain and the gut, that's the other thing you need to bring up into the heart. Okay?
The gut brain.
The gut brain. Yeah, Natalie, would you care to talk about the gut brain? You and I have had so many gut brain conversations. Guttural. I love putting her on the spot.
Yeah, the gut brain's really interesting. Sometimes when we're just getting into starting to recognize what our technology is telling us, what we're starting to really sense, we're becoming more aware of who we are and our surroundings. Some people just say they have that gut feeling, and sometimes for me, it's like a fluttering, like the butterflies are fluttering. Sometimes it's a little bit acidic. Sometimes it feels like I've got, just like the stone lying there. And I'm starting to recognize the different feelings of my gut, especially after I've done specific meditations or created tools, or we've done some alchemy on something, or clearings, especially if we were clearing something quite dense. I'm really, really listening into my gut just to make sure there's nothing sticking. I'm clear.
Gut is linked to your parasympathetic.
Yes, and I think that's a good way of starting to see how, when you put your energy there, how aware you are of if you've activated it, if the energy has come down to that point. And another thing I wanted to talk about with the heart as well as the gut is when you're doing these exercises with your technology and your spirit, is the breathing. The breathing is key, and that was when Andrew was describing, bringing the eyes down and opening up in the heart. The way you breathe, you'll start to play around with different types of breathing, and you'll find when you're engaging in these types of getting to know yourself and then going into a focus and letting your gut connect with your heart, getting all of that information from all the different aspects of what and who you are, you'll start to find that everything starts to have a rhythm to it, with your heartbeat and your breath, and all of a sudden everything comes into a space and a time where you're just in that knowingness, and everything is confirming that within you. You just know, and maybe you won't be able to describe it in a picture or a smell, but it's just a overall understanding that is so innate in you, and you'll just call it and see it as it is. Does that help you?
Yes, that helps me a lot.
Okay.
Now, do you envision a color as you're doing that? Let's say just the yellow color as far as bringing your gut brain
Well, no. As I was saying, you have the two eyes that align in your third eye. Well, the next process is you don't have to start with the brain to the heart. You can try to start the heart to the gut, where you bring the heart and you get it to glow really, really deep, and then you bring the heart, like the imagery of your heart, inside your lower intestinal tract. And this is what will activate pathogenic warmth, where your conception and vessel and your governing vessel will open up any ghost points and begin to release any ghost energy that you have. Ghost energy does not mean haunting. It is just the own etherical energy that was never empirically observed in yourself. It's energy you created and wasted that is in the parasympathetic that needs to be cleared out. Once you bring the heart there and you bring up warmth, your whole body warms up. People that know what biofeedback is, when you warm your hands up, that's the same thing, except you're bringing the core temperature and you're trying to share as much warmth to your body and create pathogenic warmth. Then you can go in a process of bringing the third eye into the heart. And then the third eye and the heart itself, with the eyes that align, can move down all the way into the intestinal tract and then bond with the intestinal tract and then move back up, so you're once again heart-centric. You can take that envisionment in many different ways. You can do it from the bottom to the top and the top to the bottom, or simultaneously where they both ascend into the heart. I have a couple different meditations that bring that a different way. And what that does is allows the heart to go close and open really fast and really dislodge a lot of just crusty energy that can be around the pericardium, as well as in the lungs and the bronchioles and in the throat. Now the next step is, for this to just be manifest, it needs a way through artwork, through oral words, through singing, through painting. So it needs to manifest somehow. So having a doodle skill while you're trying to remote view, or you're trying to do any of these advanced techniques of get imagery into the other side, it's important to have that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay. Did you have any other questions?
No, the heart space question was important, because that was something that I was struggling with, is to really understand and make sure I was doing everything right. But no, I mean, I'm good with that.
I got a question for you. Of all the material you've heard from me, how often does wow come to you?
Yes. Let me tell you what snagged me with you a long time ago was your consistency. I'm really good at picking out when someone might say something and then later backtrack or say, oh, you just never skip a beat. And it's always consistent. And it's just that, my gut brain telling me that, this is really good raw material. And it's your authenticity. And what gets me is your consistency.
Thank you very, very much.
I mean, you don't. I mean, and this is complicated stuff. I kind of nickname you the Sheldon of Big Bang Theory. There are just times when I'm just like, Andrew, I'm Penny. Remember, I'm Penny. And so it's just funny that way. But yeah, you're just always consistent.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you much, and thank you again. And I'm just excited to be here at this moment in time.
Each different bubble of reality is true. A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma.
Nudge, nudge. It's the Holy Grail. Improvise. Mysterious.
It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality.